Hi, all you Fight for Faithers. Appreciate your faithfulness to our video devotions. We have two more of these I am statements of Jesus. Today, we're looking at I am the vine. Again, if you've heard back from the other ones that we have shared, this statement, I am, if you're a Gentile, it doesn't mean a whole lot, but as a Jew, you would know what Jesus was saying if he said, I am. In fact, he's distinguishing himself and giving himself authority of the Father. So that's the big point there. We're going to be looking at this statement that I am the vine. In John chapter 15, we see a few things about this phrase, the vine. First of all, we know that this is Jesus. He is the vine, and the gardener is the Father. We are the branches. This is kind of interesting because throughout the Old Testament time, the Jewish nation was seen as the vine. But Jesus actually called himself the true vine. And then verses down, he says, I am the vine. He wanted to, again, put some distance between this symbolic kind of a look at the Israel nation and saying, I am actually the true vine, beyond a symbol. So he wanted to make sure of that. We also know that apart from him, we can do nothing, which is interesting. If you think about that tree, it needs roots, it needs cultivation, and it needs eventually some fruit to show that it's alive. So those are all those components of a living, growing, active faith that we see here. I remember a story that my brother used to tell about his first house, and it had all kinds of vegetation around, bushes and trees like we all do. But this one tree in particular was kind of fallow. It was an avocado tree. And he noticed that after the first year, it did not bear any fruit. In fact, it was kind of placed in the wrong spot. He wanted to put a garage there, if I remember. So he was thinking about cutting it down, or what was he going to do about this tree? Well, I'll give it another year to see if it can bear fruit. And well, it did not. So he thought about it. He said, I'm going to give it another year. I'm going to cultivate it. And I'm going to spend time fertilizing it and watering it and taking care of it. Still, that year, no fruit. He decided again, I'm going to give it another year. And he did the same. And he saw a little fruit. And then by the third year, he did it again. And he had much fruit. Folks, this is a kind of a picture, I think, of what Jesus does to us in our lives. The closer we get to the vine, perhaps the more fruit we bear. And in the text here, it talks about this thought of pruning or cutting back the branches. In fact, cutting off the branches that do not bear fruit. That's interesting. First of all, let's talk about the pruning portion. For us, in our lives, we need to kind of cut back in some areas, cut things out of our lives, perhaps, that are taking us away from our relationship with God. We all know that. But in the same aspect, this cutting back or pruning helps us grow more fruit. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. What about this cutting off of the branches, right? A lot of people would insinuate or even interpret that this means I'm going to lose my salvation. Well, I want to make note of a couple things. Because Jesus said earlier that I will not lose anyone that the Father has given me. In fact, anybody that the Father has given me, I won't lose him. That's the phrase from John chapter 6. It's a beautiful phrase. He also says in this passage, those who remain in me will remain in my love. So folks, I think we have to be careful that a storyline or even a parable, as this one kind of is, analogy, that we don't jump to conclusions in theology. But here we see that the pruning is an art, and we need to leave it to the master gardener, if you will, and that's the Father. He's the one who knows how to do it just right. He knows us very well, right? What if he treated us all across the board like, I'm going to cut all apple trees this way, and I'm going to cut all pear trees this way, or whatever it may be. He knows exactly what we need and prunes us just right if we remain in him. I love that thought. For our job, our faith, it's to remain in him, remain close to the root, the vine, because that provides life and fruit. Thanks, folks, for listening. We'll see you again real soon.